I just thought I'd start off by sharing something that just I've been a passage that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, and I know that all of us are obviously during this time. You're thinking, Lord Jesus, how do we navigate what we're going through? How do we make a difference in our churches and make sure that our churches are advancing? And whenever I find myself over the last few years in a time like this, where you're not sure what to do, I go back to the basics. And there's this passage in the book of Timothy that I almost always go back to. And I've been thinking about it the last little bit again. And it's found in 1 Timothy chapter, let me just get it quickly. It's found in 1 Timothy chapter 4. And I'm just going to read a little bit from verse 11. Now, we know that this is Paul, and he's talking to his young protege, Timothy. Timothy, for those of you, most of us probably know a bit of his story. He didn't have the greatest start in ministry. He came from a mixed family background, had to prove his commitment to obedience by getting circumcised at an older age, which couldn't have been an easy thing by a guy called Paul that he didn't really know. And he his first initial attempts at ministry weren't that great. It doesn't seem like he comes across as the most charismatic leader of all. But yet he goes on to lead one of the most significant churches in the day in Ephesus. That is, some church historians say that they had this auditorium that they would seat, the church would meet, they'd seat 20,000 people, and they would fill it multiple times on a day, when they would gather. And so you got this guy that didn't start off well, but he ended really well and ended up actually getting martyred for his faith in Ephesus. But Paul writes to him and actually says, he uses the word fight 3 times in his letters to Timothy. And I think there's all of us during this time, there's an element of us where we could respond different ways, but there has to be a way where we have to be willing to get up and fight. We have to be willing to find a way to win. And anyway, what Paul says to Timothy is encouraging. And he says this, he starts off in 1 Timothy chapter 4, says, command and teach these things. It says, do not let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. So he talks about our character. He talks about Timothy's character. So hey, make sure that you're setting an example in your character, that your character is great. And then he goes on to say this. He says, do not neglect the gift which was given you through the prophetic message when the body of elders laid their hands on you. So you got the character, and then you got the spiritual dimension, the spiritual gifts that are within us. He says, don't neglect that either. And then he goes on to say this. He says, be diligent in these matters. Sorry, I've lost the jump to verse. It says, verse 13 says, until I come, devote yourself to the public reading of scripture and to the preaching and to teaching. So he goes and says your character is important, and he talks about what you need to be doing, which to me talks about your strategy. You should devote yourself to public reading of scripture, to preaching and to teaching. This is what you need to be spending your time with. This is where you need to be allocating your time. So there's character, there's strategy, and then there's the spiritual gift that we need to make sure that we're fanning into flame. And then he says this, he says, be diligent in these matters. Give yourself wholly to them, so that people may see your progress. In other words, people need to see what we're doing. People need to see who we are. We can't hide ourselves. And part of what we're going to be talking about today is about how do we make sure that people see even our reading of scripture. How do we make sure that people actually see, because we're all stuck in our homes. And this talks about church online and everything else like that. And then he says, watch your life. Okay, that's the purity and character, which we've spoken about already, and your doctrine closely. Persevere in them, and this is the amazing promise for me. It says, persevere in them, because you'll save not only yourself, but your hearers as well. What an incredible promise, that we will be effective in ministry if we get those 4 things right, which is our character, our strategy, the Spirit of God inside of us, and our doctrine. And I found myself over the course of, I've turned 45 today. I realized actually this is my 27th year of full-time ministry. So I've been in ministry for a while. And I found that in my life, I haven't most of the time, I don't seem to get all four of those working at the same time. Sometimes I'm focusing on my character. Other times I'll be focusing on the gift of God within me. Other times I'll be focusing a lot on strategy. But if we can focus on all four of those and get all four of those things right at the same time, if I look back on my life, absolutely, when all four of those have been working well in my life, when I've given equal attention and healthy attention to all four of those, that's when I've been most effective. So we're going to be talking a lot about strategy and ideas and how to get the message out today. But just to start off, can I just encourage every single person that's listening today? Do not neglect the gift of God. Do not neglect the gift of God that is within us. There's a spiritual dimension to us that we desperately need. We need those moments during a message when we're preaching online. There's moments when we're having a Zoom conversation with a leader. Even as we've been sharing, so much of what we're sharing, if we just take it and we're going to spend time praying and mulling and bring it before the Lord, God will drop the most divine strategies and God ideas into your heads, and he's going to help you win. Why? Because God is way more concerned about your church. God's way more concerned about your friends. God's way more concerned about your community and them coming to know Jesus and finding life-giving faith than you could ever be. So we can pray with confidence. We can ask God with confidence because God is committed to your future, to the future of your church, and to your success. So I just want to really, really, really encourage you. As we're talking about all these things, please, please, please spend time praying, spend time just fanning to flame the gift of God. Allow those gifts just to come to the fore. Make sure you're hearing from him. And as we do that, then if we get all four of those things right, which is character, strategy, the Spirit of God inside of us, and our doctrine, if we get all four of those things perfectly lined up, even now, I think our doctrine's under attack. It's difficult. We've got to make sure that we're still full of faith, that we're preaching hope, that we're still holding on to the things that we believe. All those things, if we just watch all those things, then God says, he promises that not only we save ourselves, but we'll save our hearers as well. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
So good. I heard that at 45, that's when things really happen.
Woohoo!
So I have great expectations. I've heard like at 45, that's when your energy level and your wisdom actually meet. And from then it's more your wisdom and your energy levels. I don't know what the rest of you think who's 45 and older, but I'm quite excited about this year. Just want to add something to what Paul said about just at the start of lockdown. I had this moment where I think I was just overwhelmed with the responsibility of leading a church and everything that we need to do differently. Suddenly, we need to make decisions we've never made before, and we're not sure if we're making the right decisions because no one's ever experienced this. And then that night, God gave me that verse in Ephesians 1 that says, God appointed Jesus as the head of the church. And I was like, oh my goodness, we appoint people all the time. Just this week, we appointed a new young adult leader, but God appointed Jesus as the universal and supreme head of the church.
What a relief.
So he's our boss, and he's appointed to lead his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. All we need to do is to follow our leader and his strategy and his wisdom, and us and everyone that's following us will be okay. But I'm just so relieved that we have an appointed leader, and his name is Jesus Christ, and he's the solid rock that we stand on. All other ground is sinking ground, but we're on solid ground.
Brilliant. It's so good. What a relief, that we don't have to take all the responsibility, that actually he takes the responsibility for us. Well, we're going to just go into a conversational style. Different people are going to be coming out and on and off mute. And we're going to start off with Lawrence. And for those who don't know, Lawrence Kruger is the man with the beard that everybody wants or don't want. I don't know why you put it. But he and I have become great friends. Phenomenal guy, very involved in the inner workings of Hillsong in South Africa. An incredible thinker and brain. Yeah. And so we're just going to have a little bit of conversations with him. And start off by talking a bit about leadership. Lawrence, you and I were actually in a conversation yesterday, just talking about how during this time, you just find that we have to be flexible and make sure that, you know, we're making a decision today. We think this is how we do it, but we're not quite sure. Then, you know, tomorrow it might change. What do you guys do with regards to that? And just trying to figure out how to lead during this difficult time.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Paul, and hi to everyone. I've seen quite a few friends, so it's good to see everyone. And yeah, I mean, like, I think the conversation we had yesterday is, I think the one thing that is probably the same for all of us is that nobody knows what this landscape is going to look like, you know, in the future. So that's, I would almost say that's the one thing that it makes me feel comfortable in a time like this. And, you know, I think I can talk from our perspective at Hillsong Church. And I mean, obviously we, like as a team, as this lockdown started coming in, we had to make some decisions, like I think all of us, like, and I'm going to, again, just say, I think everyone is in the same boat. Like, we're all in the same boat. Businesses are probably worse off than most churches because of the challenges that people have, particularly entrepreneurs, the small businesses. But I think as a nation and as across the globe, and I've had quite a lot of conversations with, you know, churches in Europe and in America, and, you know, we as a team, as a team at Hillsong, and obviously under the leadership of Phil and Lucinda Dooley, like, had to make a decision right from the beginning, right from the start, going into this lockdown period is like, this is, and I mean, the word of the season is unprecedented or unprecedented, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But these are uncertain times. We don't know the answers, and we're just going to have to really, I think, firstly, you know, really be mindful of our relationship with God and just really seek His wisdom in the way we lead our churches and our teams and our volunteer teams. You know, first and foremost, but then secondly, just take on an attitude of, like, we don't know, so we're going to have to try things, and we're going to have to analyze those things we're trying to see if they're working. If they're not working, we're going to have to try other things. And I think so what we in week 5, so what's it, day 34 today, or day 35, I think, of this lockdown period. But I think up until this point, we feel that we've navigated pretty well. I think everyone has kept a positive attitude, and everyone feels excited about what the role of the church can be in a time such as this. So I would say the first thing is just that we've just made a decision that we don't know the answers, and we're just going to have to try things. And we're okay with making mistakes, because I think that's the other big thing. Like, everyone goes, oh, what's going to happen if people don't come to church, or what's going to happen with the finances, or so we've just decided we're going to make mistakes because we don't know how these things work. And so it's been rewarding, I would say, definitely on our team, to really try and figure out what, you know, and like we said yesterday, Paul, I mean, we don't plan too far ahead, because the landscape is shifting quite a lot. So our planning, we do have vision for long term. Like, that's always going to be there, because people are attracted to vision. But like, our plans, we don't try and plan too far ahead, because it might change. So maybe 2 weeks, even 3 weeks is kind of the max where we like lay out our plans, like the operational type of plans, because we just feel that the landscape could change so quickly, and then we want to be flexible, you know. And
yeah. That's so good.
I just want to add something quick.
Don't plan too far ahead.
Last night we had a Kingdom Builders meeting for our givers here at Hope Church, George.
Yeah.
And Ken Costa was our guest, and he spoke. And just to add to what you're saying, right at the end, he gave us a prophetic word, and he pretty much said, live for the day.
Yeah.
Don't plan too far ahead. He said, wake up each morning and say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. May the joy of the Lord be our strength in this time. And I just think there's so much wisdom in that, live for the day. And if anybody wants that link to our Kingdom Builders meeting last night, you can just ask Errol.
Yeah.
And he would gladly
Yeah.
send it to you.
Yeah. He'll send it through you. Yeah, that was so true. And so just exactly what you're saying, Lawrence, is like, we can't plan too far ahead. And it's almost reassuring to know that none of us have got it figured out, and that we're all on a journey. We're all trying to figure it out. And we are going to make mistakes, and we've got to be okay with making mistakes. But we've got to be prepared to make mistakes if we're going to make any headway, we've got to be flexible. We've got to be thinking. We've got to be praying, God, help me. And I think as he does that, somehow he's going to help us get there.
And I think the other thing that what we've tried to understand is that the people on the other side, so the people who call Hillsong Church home, are also going through a whole lot of changes, and they're also facing challenges, and suddenly they have to homeschool their kids. They need to, some people are under job strain. They need to figure out new routines. So we're just mindful of that, saying we can't expect people just to, respond in the same way that they have in the past, because it's just not the environment don't allow for it. So, and almost for us to just make the decision and going, okay, well, it's going to look different. It just took the pressure off to get things perfect and get it right, and try new things. So that's definitely helped us a lot.
Yeah. And I think people that are part of our churches, they see our effort, and they appreciate the effort. Even if we're not getting it right, they appreciate that we're trying and that we're trying to do what we can, and our volunteers appreciate it. So there's obviously some challenges. We've got a lot of amazing resources that are available, from some great churches. A lot of our churches overseas have made incredible resources available. I'm actually going to ask Errol to post some of the stuff in the conversations where you can find a lot of resources. But South Africa does have unique challenges. Not all of, most of our churches are quite diverse. So you've got people that have access to the internet, they've got data, they can be in Zoom small groups, and they can watch church online. But there's a lot of people in our communities that just simply can't be part of Zoom small groups, and it's hard. And we're thinking, Lord, how do we do an online small group with people where they can't be online, and how do we make sure that we're helping people like that? And so there's so many difficult things. What are you guys doing at the moment for small groups?
Well, I mean, we do the Zoom groups is obviously the regular. So we've it's interesting. So I'll just backtrack a little bit with our community. So we have, just to give people a bit of context as well, we have two of our locations are in townships. So we've got one in Guguletu and one in Mitchells Plain. So those communities have real challenges. They are the people that won't have access to data. They necessarily, so it poses a whole different challenge for us. But in general, what we've done with small groups is we run the Zoom groups, and then we've actually encouraged all our volunteer teams, so our Sunday volunteer teams, to create groups.
Yeah.
So saying, hey, that in this season now, because you can't serve on a Sunday, why don't you just create a group and just meet regularly as you would in a small group. And that's been really helpful, I think, for us to keep connection with our teams. Generally, people use Zoom. So they have data, they use Zoom, but then in Google Earth, it's WhatsApp. So people are literally having WhatsApp groups, and they have their group meetings over WhatsApp and have conversations that way. So it's a real challenge. So we're constantly grappling with how do we make our content Sundays available to those communities. We don't have an answer yet. We've tried a few things. At the moment, the thing that works best for us is we've made the data-friendly versions are available for our services. So it's either just the audio or the transcript. So we'll send the transcript out on, the full transcript of the message we'll send it out on WhatsApp. And then we've also broken our services up into like just a worship segment and a service segment, and we would compress those into small little files that we can then WhatsApp out. So we'll distribute those via WhatsApp so that they're not bigger than, you know, the total file size of the full message would be like maybe 60 meg or something like that. You try to get it small. I know they've got some targets. It's very pixelated. It looks horrible, but at least we're getting the messages out to as many people as we can. So those are some of the things we try to do for Sundays. Small groups. The other thing I wanted to say, which we only discovered quite late in this process, is that Zoom. I don't know. Maybe you all know this already, but Zoom has a breakout function. So you can actually create little breakout groups on Zoom. So what we do on Sundays before our services, our regular service times, we will have at all our locations, they'll have a volunteer prayer meeting for all their volunteers, just 30 minutes before the service. The teams would still gather, they try to encourage one another. And then after that prayer meeting, the volunteer teams can actually break out of that Zoom, like in their separate teams, and have a quick like catch up. So that's, and we count that as a group as well. So those are some of the things we've tried with groups, and some of them, you know, again, like we don't make these hard, fast rules like you have to do this. We just say, hey, if you can, it'll be great. Being mindful that people's lives are full. Like we've just realized that because people are on lockdown doesn't mean they're not busy. They're very busy. They're homeschooling. They're busy with the kids. They're trying to do their job in between. So we are really mindful of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You also do radio. We find the radio works quite well. We have 2 radio stations at 9 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah, radios worked for us as well. So we are in Cape Town, we're in CCF, and we haven't been able to go beyond that. But I mean, if anyone, like I was, like we were toying with the idea of maybe starting a digital radio station. So we're toying around with that idea, saying, hey, can we do a radio station that's digital, so you still just have the audio that goes over? But I mean, it's just, yeah. We don't know. We're just trying. So those are some of the things we've been trying.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Lawrence.
Lawrence, just one more question. The volunteer prayer meetings you mentioned now before your services, is that before every service?
Yeah. So we take it's before our because we've got different locations. So I'll just explain to you. So our Braamfontein location have 4 services that kind of line up with our live stream services. So they'll have 4 volunteer prayer meetings on a Sunday. So it's still per location. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep people in as regular rhythms as we can, and still keep the connection there between people, because we want the volunteer teams and the location pastors to still have a connection and still. You know, I think a lot of pastoring happens there. I think people feel cared for. They feel part of the community. So so we try, like, and again, we've just said to the team, if you guys can do it, then do it. And a lot of people have latched onto it, and I think it's great.
Very good.
Brilliant. And Marinette really felt like she had a word from God at the beginning of last year that we need to care for our volunteers, and I think it's during this time it's become even more important to us again, just that word coming back again, because I think sometimes it's easy for us to say, well, they're not doing anything now, so we haven't contacted them. But just to make sure that we are contacting them and make sure that they are valuable to us, not just because they're fulfilling a function on a Sunday or in a church service, but they're caring about them as people. And it's maybe even more intentional about trying to do that.
Yeah, it's incredible how God goes ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean the 4 things that we've really felt that these are the 4 things, if we do them well, I think our church will stay healthy. It's just 4 basic things. Is we want to continue to speak with vision and hope. So that's on Sundays. So it's the first thing. So we want to, like, whenever we in meetings or in you know, on Sundays or whatever we do with Zoom or group. Like, we want to continue to speak vision and hope. That's the first thing. And then the second thing that we've really felt is important for us is that we want to care for our team. Like, so that's our staff team, our volunteer team, as far as possible. We you know, someone made a statement saying if we win the team, then we'll win the church. You know, that's someone in our team made that statement. We're like, yeah,
so good, eh? That
it's
is
true.
so
Like,
good.
so we've really gone after caring for our team. You know, do what it. So that includes volunteers and our staff team. And then the third thing we said is if we get that right is care for our community. So that is, you know, food, whatever, pastoral care, food, and then the fourth thing is church on Sundays. So everything we do, like at the moment, we try to make it fit under those four things. So we feel if we can do that well in the season, then I think our church will just grow stronger, and the rest will, you know, the finance will come. Like, finance is not even in that equation, because we feel if we do those things well, then, you know, God will look after, you know, the other things.
That's so good, eh? Speak with vision and hope, care for our team, care for our community, and then do church on Sunday as possible. That's brilliant. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
Tell me something. I mean, you guys, you do a similar thing with most of the churches that have learned and are learning with regards to growth track. You call it Welcome Home. You know, obviously that used to be done and was done in the past, you know, live, and now trying to navigate what does that look like. You know, especially if we are in some sort of semi-lockdown, or these churches can't gather on a Sunday for what the people, different people are saying different things. Some people are saying September. Some people are saying maybe the end of the year, or, you know, we're not sure when we're going to be doing it. But yet it's critical to still somehow assimilate people and get people into some sort of where they've taken that next step of commitment to the church. What are you guys doing with that at the moment, Lawrence?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone here would probably testify that there's been a lot of people, you know, that people will be checking you out. I think in times like this, all the churches that I've spoken to, in a time of crisis, people ask questions. They ask real questions about their lives, about their livelihoods, so I do feel that we've had a lot of people checking church out. I mean, I know a lot of people check other churches out, which is fine. I mean, we so we've kind of gone, okay, there's two things that we want people to do. You know, in this season, is if they've made a decision, we obviously want to try and disciple them as best as we can. Like I say, if they became a Christian, some sort of decision to either, you know, recommit their life to Jesus, or, you know, a first-time committer, we want to make sure that we look after them really well. So we do Alpha Online for those. So we just decided that we're going to appoint everyone in our follow-up through phone calls. We're going to just push them into Alpha Online. And then the second thing is we want to grow our volunteer base even in this time. We've just said we want to, as far as possible, when you speak with vision and hope, people get attracted to that, and they want to be part of doing something. So we've just decided that we're going to continue to run Welcome Home, which is our growth track. It's basically the 4 weeks with a little bit of our taste to it. And we run it on, I think, 3 nights a week, you know, so people can do it, and, you know, they can do it within 2 or 3 weeks. They can finish it, and it's a Zoom link where they can click in, and there's some video content, and there's a facilitator that just takes them through the course. And we've really only, again, like, it sounds like we've been doing it for ages, but this is, I think, now the second week that we're running it, because we've just realized we just needed, like, this, you know, I think people probably in general thought, oh, it's a 3-week lockdown and then life's going to return to normal. So you never really think about kind of the longer term, the processes that you need to do to actually continue to help grow your church. So in the last 2 weeks, we've decided that we gonna start getting people on board again, and with something like Welcome Home, and again, for those people who are more than one site, we break it up multi-site. So we don't do it just one, like church is at the moment just one stream to everyone, but everything else, our pastoral follow-up, like we all break that into our different various locations to care for people more authentically, and it just makes sense to be cared for someone in your area and someone who can probably know the school where your kids go to. And so, yeah, I mean, we've added volunteers, which I find amazing in this season already. So I think if we can continue to do that and put it out there for people saying, hey, you can actually do something, you can pray, you can make phone calls, you help us make masks, there's a few things that people can still do while in the season. So I think people's hearts get stirred to do something, and it's amazing if we can actually help them to be part of the team.
It's actually amazing that you've been able to do that. You've actually been able to add people, bring people through a growth track or a welcome home process, and actually add them to your volunteer team. For those who are not too familiar, that might be listening for the first or second time, are not too familiar with a lot of the process that we talk about within our wider ARC family, is we're pretty convinced that you need to normally, under normal circumstances, do Sundays really, really well, have an effective discipleship process, which is through small groups, an effective small group model, and then make sure that we have a clear process where you can bring people, 1, 2, 3, or 4 step process. We bring people from a visitor into some sort of volunteer team where they're actually contributing to the life of the church, and that's what growth track is. So there's really 4 parts to the church. We say, Sundays, your volunteer team, some churches call it dream team. Your growth track, which is that online process.
We call it discovery.
We call it discovery at our church, and then obviously effective small groups. And like I said, Errol's got a lot of resources that are available for that. But how do we do all 4 of those essential components to discipling and growing and making sure that our churches are really life-giving? Because obviously we never want to be built churches that are built around one gift. People come to listen to a phenomenal preacher. Obviously the preaching needs to be good, or phenomenal worship. But we always want to try to make sure the body of Christ that we're building is healthy, and people actually stepping into the gifts, discovering them, growing, building healthy relationships, and actually equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry. And so it's just challenging.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, can I just ask you guys a question? Are you feeling that that people in general in your area where you are engaging in church? Are they do you feel like, I think the question, it's the thing that you and I discussed yesterday, but it's almost going, how is church going is the question I want to ask you, because I mean, I think it's probably how everyone's wondering about, how is church going, and it's a good thing to maybe discuss for a minute.
Yeah, I think all of us are trying to look at how many views we have on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever we're doing, and we'll be talking a little bit about that tomorrow in tomorrow's ARC meetup, and just on the Sunday and the practical things about running Sunday, equipment, streaming options. How do we post it? Putting fail safes in to make sure that we don't lose it halfway through, and trying to maximize our Sunday experience. But I think the challenge is, and I think this is maybe, I'm not sure if it's God. I'm not sure, but I have an unease about what we're currently doing, not just about our church, but I think the wider church. We're having quite a few views, and everybody's saying, "Oh, we're reaching so many more people," and I'm just not really sure that we are. I'm not sure that we're actually engaging people. I'm concerned, and Marinette and I are concerned about the peripherals, those that are not fully brought into the life of our church. They used to come and attend church, and I'm not sure that they're waking up on a Sunday and going through the effort of watching church online or watching Facebook, and it's a concern. And we've got the figure, the data might say one thing, and I think what's happening for us is that we're seeing, and we're trying to figure it out, and the numbers look okay, but how many, I don't know.
Are they really watching, or are they making a cup of coffee? It's like we can't see their faces.
Are they really engaging in worship? Or they're just watching a screen? And I don't know. And are they having those God moments? And
For us, a gauge of how church is doing has always been water baptisms. You know, we didn't so much count salvations on a Sunday as we count water baptisms, because it shows lives are being changed. So at the moment, I mean,
can't baptize
we
him.
can't baptize people. And I had a dream the other night, and I wrote it off as a nightmare. I was like, I've been reading Lamentations a bit, so I thought, okay, maybe it was just an absolute nightmare. But then I actually realized God was trying to speak to me. And what I felt God say to me was that our high-risk people are the new believers. They are so vulnerable as new believers in their newfound faith. And the word God gave me was nurturing. We need to nurture them. And the other word God gave me was potential. There's such great potential amongst these new believers, but we need to nurture them. And I'm like, we need to find ways of finding these high-risk believers who are new in their faith, they're baby believers, and we need to nurture them as best as we possibly could.
And that's hard, you know.
They bothered us.
Like,
where are they?
Yeah.
I won't tell you my dream. You won't see tonight.
But it was one of those dreams that was definitely from God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's scary, you know. I think it's and it's something that we're all concerned about, and I think we should be concerned about. How do we do it? How do we look after the people that we feel like God's trusted us with?
Yeah. I mean, I think what we, because that's the question that we're constantly asking ourselves is, you know, how are people really coping in this scenario? And you know, can we say the church is healthy? Because I don't, you know, and I guess it if you juxtapose it with how church used to run before this lockdown process, I mean, a lot of people would measure attendance and go, you know, attendance, your church is strong. Like that's one of the easiest data to actually, but it almost begs to ask the question, you know, going forward, like how do we really see whether church is healthy and strong and going? So what we've trying now is we're trying to really make sure that our core, so our staff team, core volunteers, you know, and the people that are serving, you know, so I would say people that are beyond just attending church on a Sunday, we're thinking that if we really make sure that they're healthy and strong, and that's doable for us because we, you know, we've got the structures and the systems to do that. Then the periphery, which you mentioned, because that's a group of people that we also very you know, concerned about, is like what's happening with the people in the periphery. Then the core can help us, you know, look after the periphery, because we won't be able to pull them all in, because it's just, you know, we don't have the resources and the people and the staff and the. So I was just our conversation yesterday just made me think a little bit about, you know, how do, you know, what are the measurements? What are the new ways of health? Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said there. If we grow the core, I think something that we used, little accent that we used to say, don't say it, and probably get back to saying it more in the life of our church. We used to say, you know, if we grow the core, we'll grow the crowd. And so often I think we're focusing on the crowd, but if we just focus on getting healthier, you know, our church will automatically, I think, like you said, the core hopefully will just automatically look after the crowd. It's not, obviously we have to be intentional about that, but that is something to focus on.
Just something I can add on small groups. You know, we every Sunday, we call our Sunday experiences Hope at Home. Every Sunday on social media and in MailChimps, we're saying, don't do life alone, join the online small group. But to be honest, we haven't really get that many people that really sign up for small group online. And we realized what needs to happen is people who are in small groups need to invite people to join their small groups. And that is where our role comes in, is to equip small group leaders and people who are in small groups and remind them, we are the church. You know what? You can invite anyone to your Zoom online small group. They can even be in Kuruman and they could join your online Zoom small group. And you can live in different areas of Cape Town and you can meet at the same time. So I think we need to just cast that vision to everyone who is in community, who is in a small group, that they need to invite people to join them. And that's the way we're going to grow our small group structure. Not so much through keep saying sign up, sign up, sign up. People are waiting for an invitation.
And equip the people to do the work of the ministry. It doesn't change.
Absolutely.
We've got to equip our believers to do the work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, tell us a little bit about what you guys, and obviously we've been talking about church, but the truth is that our country's hurting. And the effects of lockdown have been devastating on families, devastating people's finances. We know that unfortunate reality is so often people's finances are directly affected to their emotional well-being. We wish that wasn't the case, but for most people that aren't really serving God, that's the case, and they're going through all sorts of difficult things. Parents have lost their jobs. Their children are looking at their parents saying, "Hey, I'm hungry." And you guys have been amazing in doing. I mean, a lot of people are listening are doing. I think a lot of our churches are involved in different capacities. But you were speaking to me yesterday about the possibility of collaborating, and you just want to touch on what you are doing, and then maybe some of the ideas that you've been, some of the thoughts that you've been putting around that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that everyone who is on this call would have experienced the same, but we've just seen the need pastorally and for food security. So both pastoral needs, so prayer, counseling, all of that need, but then the very practical need just skyrocketed in the last 2 weeks. They speak about exponential growth, and it's just gone, we've had like so many requests for food in our church, and it's scary to try and figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And I think this is the and I'm saying it's scary because I also think at the same time this is the church's opportunity to really shine in a way that is never done before. I think the church can connect resource with need. I'm not saying that the church needs to be the resource. I'm just saying that the church can be the conduit to connect the resource with the need, because I think all of us, everyone, all of our churches have relationships. We have projects. We are in various communities. And I think at the moment, there are probably a lot of people that want to help, but they don't know how to get to the people who have the need. So I do think that in the church as a whole, capital C church, can really be, it's the time for the church to shine and to really help community. So I think, there's obviously a few things that we're looking at the moment as Hillsong Church, and the one thing would be obviously the immediate need. So by immediate need, we would describe it as a family who's in our church who contacts either through one of the phone calls, because we are doing a lot of phone calls at the moment. I'm pretty sure everyone else is doing phone calls, but we're calling a lot of people. We're calling our database. We're calling as many people as we can. And through those phone calls and through online prayer requests, we're getting a lot of people who are in our church saying, "Hey, I don't have food. Lost my job. I don't have food. Please help." So that's the first port of call. So we're stretching and we're cutting budgets and we're doing whatever we can to obviously meet those needs as far as we can. So we're doing very simply in two ways. We've got a food parcel, and then we have a food voucher. The food voucher, and I don't know the name of the company, it's just slipped my mind now, but we use a company that provides a voucher that can be redeemed at, I think, 6 or 7 different kind of stores, and it's pretty secure. The voucher goes directly to somebody's cell phone, and you pay the money into like a joint account. You put in the cell phone number, and it sends the money doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't cost us a cent. It's just a service that they're providing to connect the resource. So that's been pretty helpful for us, because obviously with the travel. So that's, I would say, the immediate need. And then there's the community need. So through our foundation, we have been working in a few communities in and around Cape Town and Gauteng to distribute. We started off with a lot of medical supplies, but we're shifting to food now, because the major need is food, and mainly we do that through food parcels, and that's to people who are not in our church. So that's general communities with need, who through relationships, and we've actually like in 1 week, without actually putting any communication out to anyone, had like a request for like, I think 7,000 or 8,000 families in those communities that are in dire need. It's just literally within one week. So we're trying to, what we're busy doing is we're trying to establish what we call a last mile network, and really trying to find out where are the needs. We don't have the resource, like we don't know where the resource is going to come from. And we know the Solidarity Fund is obviously working on a whole bunch of things, and we're talking to, as many people as we can, but we're trying to distribute like in churches and other NGOs. We're trying to figure out what is the real need on the ground, because we know even through the foundation, I'm interrupting myself a little bit here, but even through the foundation, we've realized that we can't, through our foundation, look after individual needs. But what we can do is we can deliver to a cafe owner in Cape Town who contacted us saying, hey, I've got 50 staff, they don't have food. We can go, well, hey, we can deliver food parcels at your cafe if you can get it to your staff.
That's brilliant.
So we're trying to get that last mile sorted out at the moment. We're trying to, we are in the beginning stage of conversation with the Solidarity Fund to see if we can actually, at least be some form of conduit through our foundation to and I don't know where the conversation is going to go. So I'm just putting it out there. We don't know if anything's going to come from it. We just realized that if we can actually show that we've got a network, or that there is here is a network, a wide network, the ARC network. I've got so many people that they can distribute food to, and this is where it's going to go. I think that we'll be able to actually get food through those networks. And I want to backtrack one bit. Just want to say to you what we do with our church, just so you know. So I'm keeping it separate, because we're always encouraging our groups, our connect groups, to help people. If someone in a group come to us and say, hey, we've got someone in our group that's really struggling, we would always say, like you said, Marinette, earlier, we would say, but you're the church, maybe try and rally the group around this person. So we're trying to really empower people to actually help people in their world, rather than the church being seen as the, just the only answer, like the church, like, no, but you are the church. So we're trying to do that. It's like, that's always going to be the first part of the conversation, saying, hey, can you help them? Like, is there a way that do you know someone who can help them? So we try and help out our church, the people who are coming up with needs to, and then the second part of it is just like what we're going to do in the community, the bigger picture, where we don't really have relationships with the people, and we're just going to try and be a conduit. So that's kind of where we are at.
Brilliant.
There are some longer term thinking that we're thinking of, like what role can the church, and I'm again saying capital C church, what role can the church play in job creation, helping to kickstart the economy? That's kind of, longer term discussions, but I don't think maybe that's for another conversation. At the moment, the immediate need is there's a lot of hungry people out there, and we've got to try and see if we can get food to as many people as we can in this time.
Just also want to add to what you said about, so someone's in a small group and they're asking for food to try and equip the small group to provide needs. And it's the same with counseling. So we do our best to get all our small group leaders to be equipped to do basic counseling before it gets referred
Yeah.
to the church. So Matt Daisel, some of you know her from Grace Counseling Center. She equips small group leaders for basic coffee cup counseling, and it's something she does online through Zoom. So Errol can also send you her details if anybody does need that. And I just have a question for you, Lawrence. So we do hope hampers and we do sandwiches, but we also considered doing vouchers. And I saw somebody ask, what is the service called again of that voucher? You do?
I'm going to have to send it to you guys.
Okay.
I actually, I forgot the name, but I mean, it's, yeah, I'll send it to Paul, and Paul, you can distribute it.
That's cool. And I saw somebody is actually from Kuruman, Koketso. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, my family is from Kuruman. I've actually been there, so yeah, by the way. I don't know, but I like Kuruman. And then the voucher. One of the reasons we weren't too sure about whether we should do it or not is, does it actually say what you can buy with a voucher? So a concern we would have is, can they go buy a t-shirt or lollipops, or will they buy basic needs?
Yeah, that's a fair question. There's two things that we have considered with the vouchers, and obviously at the moment you can't. This particular voucher, even if they open up alcohol sales again, you can't buy alcohol with it.
Okay.
So, but you can buy electricity, for instance.
Okay.
So we've just realized that we want to give people also just the benefit of the doubt, particularly in our church. People are in our church. It's different for communities. So the general, just getting the food, the need met wide. We just do food vouchers, like food packs.
Yes.
But people in our congregation, we've made the decision that we want to actually give them money, a voucher, because we place value on them, and we want them to be able to make a decision. What's their need? Like maybe they need electricity this month, and and then the other thing, you know, so a guy that I spent quite a lot of time with talking about these things, his name is Marius Westhuizen. He's a scenario planner at the Gibbs University in Gibbs Business School in Pretoria. And what they are doing, one of the research projects they're working on at the moment is in quite a poor community, where they are releasing, they give people e-wallets, so but literally cash. So not even just a voucher. And one of the things that they're saying is that there's a lot of informal trade in these communities, and if we give people cash, then we will, you know, start stimulating some form of economy in those communities and start small businesses. And so it's just a different school of thought. But I mean, they're testing this out, and it seems to be working in that particular community.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I think so. Just on that, Lawrence, I think I'm pretty sure I can speak for almost all the churches that are related to us through the wider Art network. I mean, if you can, you know, be a conduit, and then through our churches, we'd love to be able to somehow be a part in. Like you said, we don't have to have the money, the finances for the doesn't have to come out of our church, but we can definitely be a conduit for that. And I think collectively, the more churches that can collaborate together, we can stand together and go approach the government and say, hey, well, we can actually distribute this money, or we'll distribute to the need really, really well. I think we might have a lot more say. So please, if you have more information about that, or when you do, then please come.
I'm gonna send you a link, Paul, that you can maybe distribute through to the guys, and it's a free will. If they want to fill it out, it's just a very basic form that just say, you know, just explain a little bit of what you do, how many families you can impact, how many people you can actually have access to, and based on that, we can actually then start giving some of these larger funds a clear picture saying, hey, we can actually reach 50,000 families through established networks, you know. So that's what they want to know, is how established are these networks, because they don't want to just drop food off. It just becomes a logistical challenge for communities. Fights break out, but if they can distribute it through networks, it's and they at the moment they're just struggling because they don't know where those networks are. It's taking a bit of time.
No, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, brilliant.
Great. Well, we're going to change track a little bit and talk a little bit about social media. And this is where I'm going to ask the person that, as far as I'm aware, is is pretty amazing. But that's my wife, Marinette. Just to talk a little bit about, I'll ask you the question. What do you think churches need to be focusing? What should we be doing? What shouldn't we be doing with regards to social media at this time?
I think we've got 5 minutes. So, am I right?
A little bit more time.
Yeah. So I'll focus on some of the main things, and I just think that social media is more important than ever because we are online, and we obviously need to be online. And I want to encourage you, if you feel social media is not a strength of yours, God's word says that his power works best in our weakness. So the first thing we can do if we know our social media isn't what it should be is to acknowledge that and say, hey, this is actually something we're not so good at. Maybe it's a weakness, but God's power works best in our weaknesses. So we say, Lord, help us, and God will do that. And people follow people. We can't get around from the fact that most people that relate to Hope Church actually follow Paul and I. So yes,
they don't like us, they're probably not going to enjoy the church.
Therefore, it is important that as an individual leader, I am visible on social media, and so Paul is on social media. And when we talk about what we're doing as a church, we share that. And I just think that's important for all of us to know who lead churches, that people follow us. And our church's social media is absolutely crucial, more than ever. Paul and I, years ago, watched a talk where they asked 5-year-olds random questions. And they asked this one 5-year-old, what is leadership? And this kid, without blinking, said, it's keeping other people informed. And we were both like, wow.
Ooh.
And our social media currently is where we're able to keep everyone informed. We can keep people informed of what's happening on Sundays. We have 5 Sunday services on Facebook, YouTube, and online church. We are a church that believes in small groups. So we have small groups where you can connect. So we post about our small groups. And we have had 6 new small group starts since lockdown. We celebrate those and we throw it out in stories because people need to know our church is moving forward. Hey, another small group started. Oh my word, another small group started. And it ignites something in people because they cheer on, oh, yay, Jason is a new small group leader. And it actually creates that momentum that the church is not closing down. There are more leaders raising up. This week we started 4 new small groups for young adults, for young people between the ages of 18 and 25. And we're blasting it because it's like a new generation is coming to the front. And our church is doing a COVID-19 response. So we post pictures and what's happening and updates, how many masks have gone to the hospital and how many sandwiches has gone to children and how many Hope hampers have gone to families. But we keep people informed, and we want them to come to our social media because they know it keeps them informed. So our social media has actually grown with a lot more followers the past few weeks because people actually know that that's where they need to connect with us to stay informed. We've joined a global prayer movement called Unite 714, and everybody goes to our social media to follow that. And then the thing about social media, like I said earlier, maybe you feel it's not something you're really that good at, or as a church, just be encouraged. God knows that. And he will help us. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. So as long as you see your team's making progress and you yourself is making progress, that's fine, because then we're moving forward. Our entire staff team have to help on social media, on their personal platforms. We online church, we all need to be online, we all need to share what's happening. If our small group leaders and our volunteers don't see our staff team do this, why would they do this? So we set an example as a staff team and as small group leaders, and we post, we share, we celebrate what's happening at church. One of the things that are so key with social media is consistency. Consistency. It's so powerful, is to keep posting, keep following up, keep putting reminders, not post something today and only again a week later, or consistently post 3 times a day and then suddenly for a week there's no post. So consistency is key. To be honest with you, Paul and I did not know how to do a live video. And it's quite something when you do your live video for live prayer and a small devotion. It's quite a personal thing, because you wonder who wants to join our live prayer on Instagram and Facebook. How many people are going to come on? It's not about us. We can see Stephen Furtick has 6,000 people on his live prayer, and we have 20. That's okay. What we believe God says is, be faithful with the small, and God will give you more. So yeah, maybe we only have 20 followers today, but we're consistent. Maybe tomorrow we have 25 people coming to lean in and to pray with us and hear a short message from us that's happening at Hope Church. With our social media, we need to remember that we have a culture as a church. So at Hope Church, we're far from perfect, but we've got a strong culture, and we need to live our culture out on our social media. Yeah. So our culture is that thing, that intangible thing that actually empowers our vision. Our vision is still to reach lost people with the message of Christ, and it's our culture that empowers that. So for us, it's very important that our culture is clear on our social media, and it is our values that determine our culture. Yeah. So for all of us, when we evaluate our social media, we need to make sure, is this our culture? Is this who we are? Is this how we behave? Oh, look, yeah, we just honored all the essential workers. Yes, we have a value of honor, and that absolutely determines our culture. Oh, look at this post. We're giving hope hampers to the poor. Oh, yes, we have a value of generosity. So people see who we are. They see how we behave. And I think what is absolutely key is that we make sure that our culture and who we are as a church is accurately reflected on our social media. And that's why the person who's going to head it up shouldn't just be good at social media. They need to get church. They need to understand church, and they need to understand people, so that we can do that well.
It's brilliant. Keeping others informed, and keeping others informed is about everything about who you are as a church, your values, your things that you as a church are concerned about, what you're doing, what you're not doing, and just communicating. And like what Marinette said, just start. Obviously most of us are starting, but you might think, oh, I only got 4 or 5 people liking it, or just be faithful. Be faithful. Give your absolute best to those 4 or 5. Imagine that those 4 and 5 were 4 or 5,000. Would you prepare any different? Would you be more? Would you be pray? Would you have prayed more if there were 5,000 people watching instead of 5 people watching?
We have a value of excellence. Therefore, we don't post blurred images, and we do not make spelling mistakes, because we feel excellence honors God. So we're authentic. We have a value of authenticity. So I never really wear a lot of makeup. So I'm not going to wear extra makeup on our live prayer, for instance. But if that's what I normally did, I would just say the same person and do the same. So I just think authenticity is so key. Hey?
It's critical.
And people wonder, who are they? Who's that Marinette girl like Schoeneman? And who's that Paul guy? But we just need to be comfortable in who we are, even on our social media, because that's all people see at the moment. And reality is, God is only going to help us become who He's created us to be. Like, we're on our own if we try and be someone else, Yeah. So
social media is exactly the same.
Yeah, so just be yourself. This is who you are, and people decide if they're going to follow us, and that's fine. If they decide
they don't.
But some do, and we're faithful with the ones that God does entrust to us.
Brilliant. Hopefully that's been helpful. I'm reminded again of so many good stuff. So we don't have that much more time. We actually run out of time. But I've just got another guy on the line, or on the conversation, Ed Ellish from Urban Ed Church in Durbanville, and he's done a lot of research into what funding is available to churches from the government during this time. Like, can we claim UIF? How does it work? People are saying you're not going to get any money. You can get money. It's never going to come. And so if you just want to unmute yourself quickly, great to have you with us. Ed is an absolute brain and a great friend. And maybe you can just answer what's available to us as churches and how do we access it if it is available?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Just a few thoughts to consider. First of all, I think many of you know that banks are offering holidays on loan repayments. To give you an example, Urban Edge Church had to apply for a holiday. We actually we actually requested a reduction in our monthly installment for our partners building because we took a 37 million rand loan to put the building up. And instead of offering us just to service the interest rate, for example, they gave us a 6-month holiday. And obviously, depending on which bank you are with, when you apply for a holiday on your loan, it will impact your interest in the long term. But what banks are offering, some are saying that you can pay a much lower interest rate. Some are saying no interest rate, but it depends from bank to bank. And so you need to have a look at the terms and conditions of the arrangement that you have with your particular bank. So that's just one of the areas. Then also, one thing that's important, churches make use of credit cards. And I know I found it myself the other day too, is that a lot of people don't realize that you actually have credit card protection when you took out your credit card. And so some of those credit card rules or terms and conditions say that the bank will make your payments. And obviously you have to demonstrate that you are in a financial crisis, but they will be willing to cover that under that rule with your arrangement with your bank. And in some cases, they also put a holiday back on repayments of your monthly installments for credit cards as well. But again, you need to have a look at your bank and what the terms and conditions are specifically for the credit card that you have. And then also bond repayments. There's also availability for holidays on bond repayments as well. And some of those bonds that you may have on property that you may own also have automatic credit protection as well. So you need to explore that as well. Make sure that you ask the right questions. Sometimes people don't willingly offer this information. So we need to ask the question, can I have a holiday on my bond repayment? And also make sure that if your bond does have protection, that you actually exercise your right to use that as well. So in other words, your installments get paid during that period. In terms of demonstrating good governance, so one thing that's very important when we ask for relief as churches or as any business, generally they ask you for a certificate that says that you're in good standing with SARS. In other words, a tax clearance certificate. Now, they don't always ask, but the chances are good they're going to ask you to provide a tax clearance certificate, which you can get from SARS. Whether you're going to battle to get hold of them now to get that or not, that's another story. But if you do have a tax clearance certificate, then obviously that goes a long way in helping you to obtain relief from your bank as well. It was mentioned earlier on that there's a lot of other funds available too, but all of those funds are being administered and managed by the banks themselves. So whatever funds you need to access, you need to work through your own bank. That's what I would recommend as far as that's concerned. The one thing that's important to note is some people have asked the question, can churches apply through the SMME Relief Fund? In other words, the Small, Medium and Micro Entrepreneurs Fund. And unfortunately, we can't because churches aren't registered as businesses. We're voluntary associations. Now, if the church is registered as a business, that would be different. But otherwise, we cannot have access to the SMME Relief Fund either. Now, one of the big ones, which is very important, is the COVID-19 TERS. Now, I just want to make this clear. When we speak about UIF, it's not your traditional UIF. The UIF is managing COVID-19 TERS. So don't see it as your traditional way of doing UIF. Now, this is quite an important thing. We recently applied for UIF or COVID-19 TERS relief for One Life, our non-profit organization working in Versandekral, and we got 40% of our wage bill back within 5 days. So if the paperwork is done properly and you submit the documentation to the right place, and I'll mention where that is in a moment, then they are responding relatively fast. Now, I know there will be some exceptions where they take longer, but generally they're saying that there's a 10-day turnaround period. And so basically how it works is they accept that everybody has had a loss of income. You don't need to prove you've had a loss of income. It's accepted you have lost income. Secondly, they accept that employees are working less hours and some are working no hours. Now, some will argue and say, no, we're working harder, but the reality is, if I had to be honest, half of our staff is on leave right now because there simply isn't a lot for everybody to do right now at this moment. because job portfolio, and they'll be coming back in a week's time. And so again, we're going to be looking at new roles and functions as things change. But the good news is that even though everybody is at work, getting their normal pay, and I just want to explain this properly. In other words, if you're getting your full pay every month from the church can still claim UIF for you. And when the UIF pays out, it goes to the church as a relief. So you get the benefit of the relief, whatever that amount of money is going to be. And so like at Urban Edge Church, we've applied for everybody as well to go into UIF. And basically how it works, and I can't go into too much detail because I don't want to confuse anybody. Even for myself, it's a bit freaky to understand. I let the accountant sort that part out. But like, for example, when our employees receive their pay slip at the end of April now, it would reflect on the pay slip, but it would say over there that you got an advance or a loan. It says COVID loan, because what we're doing is to administer it from the payroll side. And this is where your accountants can help you manage your payroll. They're putting it through as an advance or a loan. So in other words, you still clear exactly what you cleared. You're still paying all of the things you need to pay. Your pay as you earn. If you're on some sort of group life insurance or pension fund, everything gets paid, but the money is demonstrated as an advance to you or a loan. And as the UIF pays the money out to the church, who is then the beneficiary of that UIF money, it then gets written off over a period of time. So you don't actually owe the money. It's just the way that they are administering it. So your payroll will look a little bit different, but that's how they're doing it. And so, as I said, irrespective of whether you people have lost income or not, or whether you're paying full time, you can still claim UIF. And as I said, the benefit goes directly to the church. I can give you one example of one lady we had to lay off, and it was just simply because she worked 1 day a week. She was just filling in, and we had to release her. And her UIF payment was actually bigger than the amount of money she was receiving monthly. And so what they're looking at there, I can just give you an idea, is the UIF scales basically work like this, that there's a minimum of 3,500 paid out and a maximum of 6,730 Rand paid out. But again, every single cent helps. And so if you're paying salaries normal, then the benefit goes to the church. It gives you some relief on your payroll. And then the last thing is, how do I get the TERS relief? And it's pretty simple. I'm going to put it onto the group as well, or I can actually give it to you, Paul. You guys can circulate it. All you need to do is send a blank email. Please do not fill in any information. Don't put a heading in. There needs to be no documentation or a body whatsoever. Just send a blank email to covid19ters@labour.gov.za. I've tested it myself a few times to make sure it works. And the moment that you send it through, within a couple of minutes, you're going to get an automated response that tells you exactly step for step what you need to do, what the documents you need to complete. And so you can then apply for your COVID TERS through the UIF platform.
Ed, that is amazing. Money for the church. Woohoo! I think that's incredible. Thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing. And if you could just post some of that, or maybe this email, either Errol or Errol will probably be the best, or maybe if you want, you could Ed, you can maybe just even post your email address. I know I'll offer your services for free because you're such a good guy. But that's absolutely helpful. Thank you so much. Woo! All the hard work, figuring it all the time.
I hope that was clear enough. But it's been a fast learning curve for all of us. So yeah.
No, I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Paul was telling me the other day, Ed will figure this out for us.
Don't worry, Ed's on it. He'll figure it out.
So what I will do is the notes that I've put together, because I typed everything up, I'm going to send it to you and Errol, and you guys can distribute it as you want to.
Yeah, that'll be brilliant. So just make sure if you do want that information, just contact Errol at info@arcchurches.co.za, and we will get all that information to you to help you during this time.
Just a big thank you to Errol. Errol's the guy with the green palm leaves behind him. If you don't know his face, he's the assistant coordinator for ARC in Southern Africa, and he's an absolute blessing. Such a kind person, and just loves the church. At any time, you can email him, phone him, give us a thumbs up, Errol. So he's here in our office in George, and just willing to help and pass on and share and anything like that.
Brilliant. Well, I know we've kept you guys a little bit longer than what we said, so I do apologize for that. But just conversations. Hopefully some of it's been inspiring. A big desire here is to not give you the answers, but to maybe just somehow through the conversation, God would spark something in your heart, or those creative juices will flow, or just start to think, okay, you're not the only one in that boat. Let me think about this. Or maybe somehow through the conversation, you might have got a little bit of courage. What we're going to be doing tomorrow at 2:00 again is we're going to be talking mostly about Sunday online. What are the options? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, church online. How does it work? How doesn't it work? How do we build a platform long term? What sort of equipment is needed? How do we upgrade? What do we spend money on? What don't we spend money on if this is going to be some sort of a semi-long-term commitment? And then building online community. And so some of the people we're going to be having the conversation with tomorrow have been doing this a whole lot longer and are pretty amazing at it. And we've got some experts in there. We're also going to be giving you guys in this equipment list. So like, hey, if you think about this is what your budget is, think about this. Or think about this. What do you need? What do you need here? What do you need there? What do you need there? What does worship look like, online? How do we do that? What are the different options that are available to us? And so I think that might be helpful to you tomorrow. Good, as well as kids and all that type of stuff. Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it was helpful to you. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you so much, Lawrence.
For your wisdom, and for Ed for all the hard work you've put in. And we really, really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we can't actually have a cup of coffee together now. That would have been the best. But just want to encourage you once again. Just make sure that you're focusing on all four of those things, looking at your character, who are you when nobody's looking, looking at what are you doing with your strategy, making sure that you are actually doing the right thing with your time, focusing your energy on the right thing, asking questions. Strategy is important. We need strategy. But at the same time, with us doing all of that, doctrine is important. We need to guard our doctrine, especially during testing times. That's when our doctrine often gets tested first. But the biggest thing, not the biggest thing, all of them are important, but I just want to encourage you again, the gift of God that is inside of you, Holy Spirit inside of you. We need those moments, even while you're preaching, even while you're sharing, or just be woken up at night. Hey, I need to phone this person. God laid this person on my heart, trusting God for those God moments, just to break through something incredible to happen. And as we do that, as we fan that into flame, something amazing. And if we have all four of those things functioning in our life at the same time, the guarantee, the promise that God gives us in His Word is that our hearers will get saved as well.
Amen.
And that is exactly what we want to see.